Power switch is there, make sure it's off before you begin. Lift the feed finger, and any detents on the old applicator, specific features will vary. This is the feed finger here. That's a detent there, so we'll lift that. And pull the terminal strip out to the left. Using 3/16 Allen wrench, remove the right locating plate. 3/16. This is the right locating plate. Do not remove the left locating plate, which is actually under here. Lift feed finger and slide the old applicator out. Sometimes you have to sort of pry up the locating plate with a little bit of a screwdriver. Lift feed finger, pull the applicator out to the right. Pull punch release and remove punches. You would set this into a labeled bin along with all the other parts, such as these punches that we're about to remove. Pull the punch release. The punches will just kind of fall right out. Using 5/32 Allen wrench, remove front striker and rear striker. That's that. We're going to set this here for now because we're going to need that later. When you're removing the right striker, the bolt is going up into the machine, so you're going to actually turn your Allen wrench sort of the opposite direction you might be thinking. From your perspective, it's going to be turning clockwise, which would be normally tightening rather than removing. Let's see. That's the front and rear striker. Center carrier punch and nose hold may be removed if present. They would look something like there would be a plate like this holding a bunch of pieces in. So you want to install, first before you put in the applicator, you want to install the rear striker, as you won't be able to install it over the applicator. The rear striker is going to be oriented so that this actual striking part is towards the front. It comes down onto the rear shear of this particular applicator. We're using a 5/32 inch Allen wrench for this particular one. You're going to want to get it sort of hand tight. There we go. You'll have to find where the hole is drilled into the machine too. Don't tighten it down too crazy. Just tight enough to stay in. You want to pull the punch release and install the dies, the punches. They're normally going to be arranged so that there's no large gap. It's usually pretty obvious how they need to be arranged. And then the slot here is going to be always on the right hand side as you insert them. That's that. Using 5/30 install front striker. So the front striker, same deal, directional. It comes down on the die there, or on the shear. You want to slide the applicator left into position. You're going to lift the feed finger again to do that. There's a notch here that goes around this notch on the left locating plate that we did not remove in step one. It should just slide right in there. You want to replace the right locating plate. There's also a notch, but it's not going to interface with anything. It's just going to stick out there to the right. You want to secure it with an Allen wrench, obviously. 3/16 inch Allen wrench. So we open the rear cover next. You can just take these screws out by hand, but they're 3/16. If someone has come along and tightened them, being helpful. You want to insert the shorter end of a 3/8 inch Allen wrench, this end, there's an axle cap on this flywheel. Yeah, we'll turn it this way. So you're going to insert it right there, right? Hold firmly onto it. It won't turn until you move the clutch, but you want to just be holding onto it anyhow, just in case. Don't put your hands in the belt. Don't put your hands over in the crimping area. Keep your hands as out of it as you can. While continuing to hold the wheel in place, you press up on the clutch, which on this machine is right here. and it'll immediately try to turn on you. So that's why you want to hold it in place as you do that. You want to look at the front of the machine, and as you're facing it, it's going to turn counterclockwise, and you want to watch the dies, again keeping your hands clear. You want to watch and make sure that it's coming down in a correct alignment and not going to be smashing into itself. When you come back to a full cycle, you want to just give the Allen wrench an extra turn counterclockwise to make sure the clutch is back in place. Once you have ensured that the applicator is not going to smash into itself and be destroyed, you want to go ahead and thread the terminals right back through it carefully, and making sure that the strips are lying flat against the applicator as it travels through, so that it can come through these slots in the two shears on the far end of it. Now we're going to adjust the press settings. We're not adjusting anything on any applicator, almost never. We always use the press settings when we're adjusting settings. So using the 3/32 Allen wrench, you can adjust the feed finger locations. The feed finger can be moved back and forth, and there's a set of instructions that'll show you how to do that. Using 3/16 Allen wrench, loosen feed lock screw. Once you have the feed finger in place, right, it's got to be in the this strip here on the back. You loosen this feed lock screw. You don't need to take it all the way out, but maybe bring it up about 1/16 of an inch so that you have nice, relatively free range on this wheel. You want to move it all the way to the right. As you turn it right, the feed finger will retract, and you want to keep moving that wheel until the feed finger stops retracting. Once that feed finger has retracted fully, you'll arrange the strip so that the first terminal is aligned over the anvil, such that it would be terminated correctly if the press were cycled. At that point, you'll start advancing the feed finger, and you'll watch the terminal strip as you do it, and stop advancing as soon as the second terminal on the strip is over that anvil. So, sometimes a little sticky. So there you go, over the second anvil. This detent should drop down into the hole if it exists. All the detents should be in place, and the feed finger should be in place. You want to pull it back and about the feed finger back about 1 millimeter, a little bit less maybe, like that, and you're all set to tighten it right back down there with the 3/16 Allen wrench. So you're going to refer to this Molex settings chart. You'll already know what terminal and applicator you're using. In this case, we're using terminal 16020086, and these are manufacturer part numbers. And the manufacturer applicator number is 11402090. Theoretically, we'll be terminating 24 gauge wire, so you're going to set the insulation setting to 6, which it's on. We'll set it anyway, just so you see how. And you're going to set the conductor setting to 5. And it should be relatively easy to match it up with the display on this chart. We're using 3/32 Allen wrenches to undo the set screws for those two settings. The insulation lock is over here on the side, so you will insert the Allen wrench down in there, undo the set screw slightly, and then use a large screwdriver to adjust the insulation setting as appropriate. You want a number to be in there. There's no halfway. It won't do anything. It'll actually damage the machine. So make sure you're on a number such as 6, and tighten down the insulation lock screw again. Ditto the conductor lock. You just go in the front, undo it slightly, and over here on the side you use a screwdriver right there in that big gaping hole there. Use a screwdriver to adjust the conductor setting to where it needs to be, which is 5 in this case. That's about 5. It's not an exact science, obviously. Anywhere from here to here is like 5. You're going to want to run, after you run your first piece, do a conductor crimp height check to make sure that you're crimping the terminal in an appropriate way.